Okay, well, let's take a look through Lent. We've been all through this season of Lent, which is the season before Easter, is a time when we've decided we're going to grow. And we're going to grow as people, but we're also going to grow a garden. And so this is the garden that we are going to grow. Now, some of us saw this garden last week, and it looks kind of the same as last week. Doesn't look very different at all. Same as there's these boxes behind us, and I see that there are seed packets sticking out of them, but other than that, they just look like they've got dirt in them. So that's making me think maybe there is something about this garden that's different than last week. Can you imagine what it could be? It looks the same, but what could be different? I have an idea. I think maybe something's been planted in it. Something's been planted in it because I see there's a few little things on the top of the soil that maybe are seeds. They're just underneath the top of the soil. I think there might be seeds in there getting ready to grow. I don't know, but maybe there might be something that's getting ready to grow inside, even though we can't see it yet. Speaking of growing, we are going to meet someone special today. His name is Jake. Some of you know him already, don't you? Exactly, you're pointing at him, aren't you? He was born last year, right? And today we're going to welcome him into our church family. And we do that with something called baptism. And I think baptism is kind of like planting seeds. Jake won't remember what we do today. And what we do today, it won't be visible to anybody. Once you leave here, nobody will be able to see that anything happened. Kind of like I can't tell that anything's happening with these seeds here. And we're going to say some prayers and we'll mark them with water. But we don't know what will grow from it. We have no idea. But we do it because just like when we plant seeds, we hope that something good will grow. We hope that Jake will grow up knowing that God is with him, that he's not alone in the world, that he's valuable, and he's loved. Well, yesterday, I conducted a funeral. One of the effects of the pandemic is that we've had fewer funerals than we used to. Not because people have not died, but because we can't hold gatherings in the ways we've done in the past. So many people have delayed their plans or even chosen simply not to hold end-of-life rituals at all. Now, no one wants to spend a lot of time at funerals for obvious reasons. But as you can imagine, I kind of think funerals are important for our individual and collective well-being, as well as navigating times of grief. But this week, I was remembering a different factor that I've been missing when we haven't been holding as many funerals. Every funeral that I participate in or attend invites me to consider the gifts I have received from the lives of those around me, how my life has been or can be impacted by somebody else. I consider the legacy I inherited like seeds planted in my life. Well, today, as we think about seeds, I'd like us to think about what seeds are planted within us. And we might begin by thinking about loved ones who have died, and whether that's recently or a long time ago. But think about people who have had an impact on you. It might help to start one at a time. So think about one person who mattered to you. Could be your grandmother or a childhood friend. It might be someone you didn't really know except for this one thing, one time you'll never forget. Do you have someone in your mind? Good. Now think about their influence on you. What have you held on to about them? If you will, what seeds did they plant in you? I'm remembering, for example, a woman whose name is completely lost from my memory. She worked as an administrative clerk in the faculty office at a university I attended. One day, I was there to hand in a paper to the office, but it was not a great day for me. Circumstances were kind of crashing down around me, and the woman asked, "How are you today?" Quite innocently. And suddenly, without really intending to, I was sharing it all with her and detailing this financial dilemma that had me in a very tricky spot. Honestly, didn't have a clue how I was going to solve it. The circumstance kind of had me overwhelmed. And I don't know if this was a regular occurrence for her to have students just kind of erupting in front of her, but it wasn't for me. We'd never really spoken before. I didn't talk this way really to my friends, much less relative strangers. What I remember is that she was really very kind to me. She made me feel calmer, and that my little problem wasn't insignificant, that it mattered to me anyway. But what really surprised me was what happened next. When I pulled myself together to head on my way, she handed me an envelope that nearly made me fall down. I don't remember how much money was in the envelope. I kind of think now that it was an amount that if I were to see it now, I'd go, "Oh, that's not actually that much after all." But as a university student at the time, it seemed like a whole lot. More than I could imagine someone would just give to me. And enough that would kind of solve my problem of the moment. So I tried to refuse it, of course, and she insisted. And she told me simply to pay it forward someday. Her gift completely changed my day and kind of my life in that moment. And I often look back and wish I knew her more or better, that I knew her name or where she might be now. She will never, ever know what got planted in me that day. But even though it was a really long time ago, I often think about it. It reminds me to be kind. It bumps up in my memory, often at inconvenient moments, challenging me to be as generous as I can, especially with people I don't really know. And then I think of Jesus' story of the mustard seed that we heard, and I understand the yield that a single seed can have. I feel in my gut the wisdom of investing in someone or something, even if we can't see or know the results. Now, you will have different stories than mine, but you will know as well that there are seeds that have been planted in maybe very small, seemingly significant, but really important ways. I wonder if one of the ways we can grow this Lent is to honor some of those seeds that have been planted in us. Let them grow a little bit, or a little more, as the case may be. Take some steps that someone we admired might take. Do something in honor of one who showed us something we value. Act in a way that would honor what someone taught us. Indeed, maybe those seeds have grown in you over time enough that they would allow you to start planting seeds in others. For this is the other perspective about planting. We have to remember what has been planted in us, but also what kind of things we are planting or could be planting. The New Testament is full of imagery of God as a planter. Jesus' parables are full of seeds and harvest and vineyards. And Jesus certainly seems to suggest that if we wish to see the kingdom come, it's our job to scatter and plant seeds. Lots of them. Like Johnny Appleseed. Johnny Appleseed is mostly famous for the song that is the grace you sing at church camp. But Johnny Appleseed was actually a real person named John Chapman. He was born in Massachusetts in 1774. And he always carried this leather bag filled with apple seeds that he collected for free from apple cider mills. And legend says he was constantly planting them in open spaces, in forests, along the roadways, and by the streams. But research tells us he also cultivated and tended countless nurseries. He was known as the Appleseed Man, and later he became known just as Johnny Appleseed. And not only did he literally plant seeds, but his life teaches us a little bit of something about why we plant. His dream was to produce so many apples that no one would go hungry. Mary Oliver has this poem, "What I Have Learned So Far." Meditation is old and honorable. So why should I not sit every morning of my life on the hillside looking into the shining world? Because, properly attended to, delight as well as havoc is suggestion. Can one be passionate about the just, the ideal, the sublime, and the holy, and yet commit to no labor in its cause? I don't think so. All summations have a beginning. All effect has a story. All kindness begins with a sown seed. Thought buds towards radiance. The gospel of light is the crossroads of indolence or action. Be ignited or be gone. Remember that it doesn't have to be something showy or impressive. That's the thing we often seem to forget, even though we know it well. We know it from our own experience. God often takes the smallest seed, the most overlooked, the most unqualified and inconsequential among us, and calls them to do great work for God. We know this, but it's good to be reminded every now and then. There's another thing I learned from a planting God. The planter sows the seed, but then nature must take its course. Growth takes time, and we cannot know what will come from the seed. In our lives, sometimes we start to see the plant appear like a mustard seed, but other times it's more like planting potatoes, where everything happens under the ground, and you don't know what you've got until the end of the season. And in this life, we often don't see the very end of the season, do we? You can only trust that the thing you planted is developing into something valuable, invisible, but still growing nonetheless. That's especially true of what we do in baptism. Today, we enact a historic tradition of welcome that plants a seed of love and care, but we don't know what will grow from it. We only know it's our job to plant. So, what growth do you want to inspire in the world? What seeds pick up your own passion for the just, the ideal, the sublime, and the holy? Only you know what seeds you carry with you and are willing to spread around. But perhaps now can be a time for planting. Planting can be an act of resistance in an instant gratification world. Planting can be an act of hope in what can possibly or even impossibly grow. Planting is an act of faith. As Henri Nouwen asked, did I offer peace today? Did I bring a smile to someone's face? Did I say words of healing? Did I let go of my anger or resentment? Did I forgive? Did I love? These are the real questions. I must trust that the little bit of love I sow now will bear many fruits here in this world, and the life to come. May it be so. Amen.